Salutations, people of the internet. Welcome to the database and welcome to the 2025 month of Sponge, where I cover anything SpongeBob related for all of the month of May. Why in May? SpongeBob aired in May of 1999. I was born in May of 2001, therefore making SpongeBob and I kindred spirits. For this video, it'll be simple, straight to the point, where I talk about my picks for the top 5 SpongeBob episodes during what I consider as the golden era. To clarify, I consider the first 5 seasons of SpongeBob to be the series' golden era, even if seasons 4 and 5 are considered post-movie seasons, and even if they're not as good as the first 3 seasons in terms of quality, these 2 seasons mean a lot to me, as I grew up with tons of iconic episodes during season 4 and 5, and I'll go over season 6 and onward as their own separate videos. Also, if you want to know more about my history with the Absorbent one, I'll provide links to my previous SpongeBob videos down below. Another rule I want to establish is that I'll be picking one episode per season, so you'll probably won't see many multiple fan favorite episodes of that same season on this list. And of course, this is my personal list and my personal opinion. If you disagree with some of my picks, just sound it off in the comments. God forbid having an opinion in 2025. With that said, let's start at number 5. Number 5. SpongeBob vs. the Patty Gadget from Season 5, Episode 20. Season 5 as a whole is something that I don't have a lot to say about. It's a very experimental season with episode sets that sometimes contain 3 episodes instead of the traditional 2 11-minute long episodes. And for this pick's case, it is one of the experimental ones. SpongeBob vs. a Patty Gadget is an experimental 7-minute long episode where the story is told through rhymes. Narrated by Patchy the Pirate, it tells the story of Squidward bringing a machine over to the Krusty Krab in order to replace SpongeBob as a fry cook.
But I've got me a fry cook and he's always on time.
But this gizmo is faster and you won't pay it a dime.
Your machine sounds delightful, but how much does it cost?
Just fire SpongeBob and tell him get lost.
Our beloved Sponge challenges the machine to a cook-off, and their duel continues to escalate with SpongeBob winning, only leading to SpongeBob passing out from exhaustion. We cut forward to a funeral scene which seems like it's for SpongeBob, only for it to be a funeral for Squidward's Patty Gadget, buried below the ground. Some of the rhymes in this episode are hit and misses, with there being little jokes that I find memorable. Overall, it's one of the more entertaining episodes that I am fond of when going back to season 5. But it's not the greatest episode for this list, nor is the best of this season. A fun start for the list, but I'll cover episodes that are way better than this one. Number 4. Wet Painters from Season 3, Episode 17. Seasons 1 and 3 have been claimed by many who grew up with the Absorbent one as seasons with episodes that are the most quotable, Wet Painters being one of them. After witnessing SpongeBob and Patrick's shenanigans wrecking the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs tasked the 2 of them to paint the inside of his house with permanent paint. Everything goes fine for SpongeBob and Patrick until they discover that the paint has stained Mr. Krab's first dollar earned. This leads to a hilarious montage of SpongeBob and Patrick finding different ways to get rid of the paint off the dollar, but fail to do so miserably.
We have technology.
Mr. Krabs returns home to find out what the 2 did to his first dollar, only to later reveal that this was all a prank Krabs made to mess with them, not really teaching them a valuable lesson of being careful. Hey, remember when pranks are wholesome? This episode is nothing but how many jokes can we cram in an 11-minute runtime. And I gotta give storyboard directors C.H. Greenblatt and Kaz for all the visual jokes that they can pull off, as they got the timing down for each joke, setup, and punchline perfectly. And yes, for those who recognize the name C.H. Greenblatt, he's the guy that would go on to create Chowder on Cartoon Network and Harvey Beaks for Nickelodeon. Greenblatt and Kaz, along with Mark O'Hare, also wrote for this episode, so they know what jokes are absurd as they are can work. My favorite joke includes SpongeBob carefully opening his can of paint, only for Patrick to recklessly do so. There is a lot of fourth wall humor in these jokes as well, which I guess is the style of humor CH Greenblatt would carry over into Chowder, like the time cards or the goddamn pirate painting from the show's intro. Overall, it's a hilarious episode filled with memorable jokes that are still funny to this day, and it's one of the SpongeBob episodes that I gladly go back to if I'm in a mood for a laugh. Number 3, Artist Unknown, Season 2, Episode 28. As an artist online, I know for certain that art is a subjective form of discussion, and it can't always be interpreted by the book. But what happens when the rules of art by the books and instructions by a teacher brings down the creativity and inspiration of an artist? Artist Unknown serves as a commentary of the differences between creative and conforming to someone's expectations. Squidward hosts an art class at the Bikini Bottom Rec Center, hoping to mold the minds of an average artist into someone exceptional, at least in his image. As expected, no one showed up to Squidward's class except for SpongeBob. This leads to a scene where Squidward tries to teach SpongeBob the artistic process according to the art textbook, only to find out that SpongeBob is actually naturally exceptional in art creativity. This leads to the breaking point of Squidward's class, where SpongeBob's artistic spirit makes him believe he has disappointed Squidward throughout the class because he's not like Squidward, yada yada yada. A salesman wants Squidward's sculpture who he believes Squidward made, which leads to Squidward finding out SpongeBob at the dump to make another sculpture after Squidward broke the last one. The episode ends with Squidward breaking his sanity and wrecking a place, only to accidentally create the spare sculpture he needed. There are two scenes in this 11-minute episode that resonate me the most, and it's both scenes that feature SpongeBob and Squidward. SpongeBob's naive optimism and Squidward's passive pessimism have been a common pairing throughout the show's run, and like in Pizza Delivery, their dynamic works off each other and stayed the same perfectly, even if it's in this episode shown in two different scenarios. SpongeBob at the start of the episode being genuinely excited to learn and blindly following the textbook, and Squidward's expectations at the end. Squidward at the start tries to break SpongeBob's optimism by berating SpongeBob's creativity and follow the textbook, with the end of the episode leading him to go insane when SpongeBob doesn't tap into his creativity. And as an artist, it is frustrating having to follow certain guidelines and expectations that only limits a person's creativity. Though for certain cases, like if you're entering an art contest or receiving an art commission in exchange for money, guidelines are needed to get the brain juices flowing with ideas. And for this episode's case, no matter how switched the scenarios are, there was no stopping SpongeBob's creativity juices in the field of art. And that's the important part about art. In my opinion and experience, never stop thinking about ideas. No matter how stupid or absurd they are, you won't know until you at least try. And that's try and what SpongeBob did. Number 2, Red Pants, Season 1, Episode 5. Season 1 was a simple time for the Sponge. It's the only season that was animated using cel shading, so it was visually unique. And this season established a lot of its main cast of characters, as well as introducing a ton of side characters. This being very early into the series run, this episode introduced the debut of Larry the Lobster, a muscle jock who loves to work out and sometimes show off as a lifeguard at Blue Lagoon. But he's not the reason why I picked this episode. The episode starts with SpongeBob and Sandy Cheeks chilling at Blue Lagoon, after SpongeBob making Sandy laugh with his Sandy impressions. Their fun is interrupted by the debuting Larry the Lobster. This leads to SpongeBob getting a little jealous that Larry is getting all the attention, especially Sandy's. During a weightlifting competition, SpongeBob tries to impress Sandy and the others with his weightlift attempt, only to accidentally rip his pants. A montage of pants ripping ensues. The people at Goo Lagoon are getting tired of SpongeBob ripping his pants, and this leads to SpongeBob noticing Sandy with Larry.
They buried me in the sand and forgot me.
What happened to you?
I lost my best friend.
How?
This leads to, arguably, aside from Living in the Sunlight from the pilot episode, the first original SpongeBob song to produce. And it's a parody of Be True to Your School that is also a lesson of just being yourself. And while I can't play the song due to copyright reasons, it's this song alone as to why I picked this episode. It's one of my favorite songs in the SpongeBob series, next to Best Day Ever, and a certain song that is saved for my number one pick. While Tom Kenny doesn't personally sing this episode number, it's nice that they get someone else to sing, as this was before Tom Kenny could find his vocal performance for this series. It's a wholesome episode with a wholesome message. It may not have a lot of laughs, but it does have a lot of heart. Number 1. Have you seen this snail? Season 4, Episode 3. It may seem controversial to have a post-movie SpongeBob episode as a number 1 pick on this list, but let me remind you from earlier, Seasons 4 and 5 are seasons that I grew up just as much as the first 3 seasons of the series. So for those who are fans of the first 3 seasons, that left Season 4 and onward with big shoes to fill. For the case of Season 4, there were some hidden gems within the rough. Fear the Krabby Patty, Krabs vs. Plankton, in a courtroom case, to medieval times in Dunces and Dragons. But the episode that I decide to pick for this list is none other than the emotional-driven SpongeBob special of the series. Have you seen the snail, also known as Where's Gary, in most of the episode's promotional material. And I'm not joking when this special episode is very emotional driven, as this comes from a relatable scenario for an episode's plot. The episode starts with SpongeBob taking on the Dirty Bubble Challenge after receiving a paddle ball. Gary the snail, SpongeBob's pet, becomes hungry and starts to beg SpongeBob to feed him. After bothering SpongeBob a few too many times, this leads to Gary running away from home. This starts Gary's journey into finding a new owner to take care of him, an elderly woman voiced by Amy Poehler that calls Gary Miss Tuftsy.
What are those Neanderthals up to? Don't they know I'm busy spoiling myself?
SpongeBob notices Gary is gone and starts blaming himself for neglecting him for too long. His mistake for neglecting Gary is perfectly reflected in this musical number montage, Gary Come Home, a song that goes down as one of the most iconic original SpongeBob songs, along with Ripped Pants and Sweet Victory. Granted, I can't actually play the song here, not even instrumental, but there are lines in the song that resonate me the most, and it made me tear up. More than a pet, you're my best friend. Too cool to forget. Come back, 'cause we are family. And forgive me for making you wanna roam. We all love having pets. Some once own dogs and cats, maybe other types of household pets. And we all once witnessed our pets passing away at one point or another, as this helps us cope with the concept of death. And these lines could even apply to more than pets. These lines are basically be interpretive as having to express feelings of loss of a loved one that you want back, but it's out of your control. Granted, by the end of the episode, everything turns out fine for SpongeBob and Gary, as Gary escapes the elderly woman after finding out she has a closet full of dead snails due to her making her snails overeat. SpongeBob and Gary reunite by a billboard sign telling Gary to come home in a very wholesome scene. But even so, you can feel all levels of emotion within this 30-minute special. The realization of losing a pet, feeling lost in an unfamiliar environment like Gary, regret neglecting your pet. It's a huge emotional roller coaster for pet lovers, and to those who deeply care of others around them. Man, this song hits for real. But what are your favorite episodes from seasons 1 to 5 of SpongeBob SquarePants? Which season from the Sponge is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. I'm Christopher James, and this has been the Month of Sponge 2025, and I'll see you next time.
Nothing's working!
Wait, SpongeBob! We're not cavemen! We have technology!
It didn't work.